Hello everyone, it's Kari here again with you, and today I have a fun spring card idea to share with you using a bunch of stencils. So I have the Art Deco stencil, the large polka dot stencil, this is the Feed the Bird stencil, and then one of my favorites, the Latte lace, and then I have this tiger print stencil. I think we're going to try a bunch of these out, and I may bring in a few more just to show you how fun this idea is. Now I've sprayed some pixie spray down on this beautiful Art Deco stencil, and I'm just going to attach that to my paper so that it doesn't move. The best way to do this is to choose two colors that are close to each other on the color chart or on the color wheel. So I've got some greens and blues, blues and purples, and pinks with oranges. And that's what I find works the best. So you're not going to get brown when you mix these colors. I'm going to start out with the dried marigold, and what you want to do is on your first stencil, go ahead and put your first color down. Then add another stencil to that without removing the stencil and partially ink up that stencil. So this is the Latte lace stencil, and I'm using the Kitsch Flamingo over the top of this one. So what it's going to do is it's going to selectively stencil portions, and it's only going to do that on the parts that are still visible through that first stencil. So this is kind of a double layering stencil technique. It's really fun to get some spring patterns. And look how neat that looks right there. So it's really fun. Let's try another one. This time I'm going to use that same Art Deco stencil with the large openings. So your first stencil should be one with larger openings. And then your second stencil will be one with kind of smaller openings that will go in the larger one. So hopefully that makes sense. You can look through your stencils, find a pattern that has larger openings, and then another one with a smaller pattern to it. Here we have the tiger print one. I'm going to use Salvage Patina over Twisted Citron. Now this turned out lighter than I expected, so you can always ink it up a little bit darker and add a couple of layers if you want. Look at this one. This is kind of an interesting look once you pull that off. So you never know what you're going to get until you pull off both stencils, but look, it's kind of a neat little pattern on that one. Let's try a couple with the large polka dot stencil. This is a really great one for this technique. I'm starting off with Tumbled Glass, and then I'm going to bring in the Feed the Birds stencil. I thought this would be a really fun card to use for a spring card, and I already have a stamp set in mind, so stay tuned. I'm going to put a couple of these together in cards to show you how they turn out. So this is the Feed the Birds stencil, and I'm going to go over it with a little darker color. This is the Uncharted Mariner, and I'll just ink over all of those, and you can see some little footprints in each of those polka dots. I wanted to add just a few more of the bird prints though, and so I'm just selectively adding a few here and there. There we go. Now I'll pull that off, and you get the polka dots with the little footprints of the birds. The little prince is so cute. And then here's a few other polka dots you might want to try to add a little more pizzazz. I decided to go in with the medium polka dot. See, look how that's going to fit right in there. But you could definitely use the alternating dot or the random dots, whatever you decide you want to use. So I go in with a kind of a lighter green Twisted Citron, but I decided I wanted it to be a little darker, so I am going to put that back over the top, add some more green, and even with a little bit of that blue. Kind of a fun look, isn't it? So that one I'll turn into a card too. And here's the large random dots. This one might be one of my favorites from this panel making session. I start with the stormy sky on this background, and then I'm going to come in with the Latte lace again and use some seedless preserves on that, on the top, and just put them in different dots. Not using all the same pattern, just part of different parts of this pattern on the Latte lace. It's kind of fun. So you can keep it all in one place and just ink around it if you want, or you can pick specific spots on your stencil to highlight in each of those dots. Whatever you want to do, and watch this reveal. Oh, doesn't that look neat? It's a really fun background. So that is fun. So here's a look at all the backgrounds we made. I'm going to take a couple of these now, and I'm going to use the exact same stamp set. This one here, the Punny Goats, which is really one of my favorites, and I'm going to use that for both of the cards. But in this same stamp set, there are goats, but there are also some chickens and some little chicks as well. And so I'm going to use that on this first one, the one with the prints, the bird prints. So I'm just kind of mapping out where I want this to go on my card and stamping that down. And then I'm going to color them on a separate panel so that I can pop them up on that background. I'm using my Prismacolor colored pencils today for this. It's really easy to color up these chicks and the hen with these colored pencils. I'm choosing kind of an orangey yellow for the darker spots, and then I'm going to blend that out with a brighter yellow color and add a little more of the dark just to add some shadows. Super, super simple coloring. And I love that you can use these pencils to blend each other out. I'm not using Gamsol today at all, just the colored pencils, and they blend so nice and smooth. I'll finish up the coloring on this one, and then I'm going to go in and color the nest of the hen exactly the same way with those yellows and the orange. And then I'm going to color up the hen to look like a white hen. So I'm just going to use a few shades of gray for her and just to add a little bit of the shadows. Super simple coloring today, but I sometimes just love pulling out my colored pencils and using a different medium. I'm also going to blend this through with the white itself, so blend that gray out into the center. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut a frame around the birds, and around that frame I wanted to use some of that Uncharted Mariner. So I'm going to go ahead and just ink around the edges to create a frame. So this is going to be like a matte paper for us, but I'm just doing it with a little bit of ink. And I'm also going to pull in that striped stencil as well to add a little more interest and just a little design around the edge there. I'm going to tape that down just to help me out a little bit and go around it with the same color. There we go. It's kind of cool with that on top. So we do have a sentiment to add to this. And so I have chosen the one from the Sunshine and Rainbows stamp set, and it says, "Here's to sunny days ahead." I'm just kind of mapping that out where I want that to go, and I'm going to stamp it down with some black ink so it stands out from that background. Here's to sunny days ahead. The last thing for this card to put it all together is to add those characters with some foam tape. Just pop those up and then glue all of that together on our card base. So we've got some really interesting designs with the little prints of the bird prints, footprints, I guess. A little bit of a scalloped edge there and some more print design on the background. A really fun spring card, all using that Punny Farm goats. Now let's make a card out of this one. I'm going to use one of the goats this time from that same stamp set and the sentiment that says, "How's it goating?" And then I'm going to use the frame that I used to cut out of that first one, and I'm going to color it up with these same colors I used on the background of the stencil for this one. So we've got the Kitsch Flamingo and the dried marigold, and I'm going to alternate those going around the frame. So I'm using the back of the frame. And this is what's going to frame our other one. I don't like to waste these frames when I cut them out. So this one is perfect to go right around the outside. Look how cute that is. I love that little smiling goat too. So fun. And what a really fun design for a spring card. So I went ahead and attached all of that with some liquid adhesive, just making sure it's all lined up. We've got our two spring cards with a very fun double stenciling technique. Look at this. See how fun it is with just those designs in the background, and they just appear in certain specific spots. And I still have a couple of panels here that I can choose to use for another card. thank you so much for stopping by today. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'll be back real soon with more card making inspiration, and we'll see you then. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.